But it's Amit's Facebook is locked in.
वो तो किया तो वो Facebook का
Oh, there you go. That's fine. Sorry.
वो
All right, guys, we are live with our weekly session. My name is Tejas. I'm a registered migration agent with Aussizz Group. This session is part of our weekly session, which is Ask Aussizz. So if you have any questions regarding your visas, migration to Australia, any state sponsorship, any employer-sponsored visas, any visas for Australia, you can basically post your questions here, and I'll try my best to answer you live. Please note, this is a general recommendations with the limited information I'll be getting from you on the messages. So it's not as specific to your case only. I can try to be as much as in detail as possible, but then again, it's not my personal advice to you as per your case. Try to give me as much as possible information to be specific about your case in details. So yes, if you have any questions, you can type your messages here. Yeah, so Parth, can you be more specific about what's your question about chef? So I can give you more information as much as I can. So Mandeep, in regards to the 491 visa invitation or the round from Victoria, there could be one more for month of June because they still have the nomination available for the rest of financial year. There was a small invitation round happened this week as well. And obviously there was a big, not big, but then specific occupation targeted round happened for 189 visa as well this week. So a lot of applicants in health occupation, teaching, and social work occupations got invited for 189 this week. Hi, Kurandeep. You have 70 points for South Australia, but can you be more specific in regards to a UNSA graduate, or you are applying being an interstate or overseas applicant? So if you're an SA graduate, you need 6 months of experience for visa 190. If you're an interstate graduate or overseas applicant, then you need to meet the different requirements. So it's case-to-case basis. So if you can give me more information, I can assist you with that. Gurinder Singh, your question is regarding 190 in WA, ICT security specialist. Got my employment assessment as well. Do we prioritize WA graduates? I'm currently living and working in a graduate of WA. Obviously, you'll be more prioritized compared to other occupations or other applicants who are applying from interstate or someone who is not non-WA graduates. However, you still need to meet the requirements in regards to either 6 months of employment or a related 4W state nomination. Maninder Singh asking if you have 70 points, any chances for 189 and 75 for 190 motor mechanic currently in Victoria. Any more round for June 189. So Maninder, even honestly, I was not expecting 189 round 4, even which happened recently as well, because they already had invited large number of applicants in late last year invitation rounds. So they didn't really have a lot of ceiling left for this financial year, but obviously whatever the left or whatever the unaccepted invitation, they've basically used to invite all these health and teaching occupations. As far as the trade occupations are concerned, including the motor mechanic, very less chances in current situation for 189. What my understanding is, I think department will try to focus 189 primarily into occupation groups which are very much in demand, such as health, teaching, social work or related, and then will leave the rest of the occupations to the state, so they can nominate according to the state's requirement. So it's case to case basis. You can try for 190 in Victoria. So at least you have a backup plan going. There could be a different scenario in next financial year, depending on what is the government strategy. So we'll get to know more once we have information available from Department of Home Affairs. Thank you. Muhammad, you're asking for the ACS, I believe, for your skill assessment being insufficient details. Yes, you can apply for the review as long as you have enough documentations to meet the guidelines. You would have to pay, unfortunately, additional fees for the review request, so they can finalize your application. Kirandeep, essay graduates, it's not about points. If you're an essay graduate and you have 65 points and you are working in your field, as long as you meet the requirements, that should be fine in regards to getting the state nomination. So it's not about increasing the points, it's about having a full-time ongoing job in your nominated occupation. But I'm getting some questions from LinkedIn as well. So Rajat is asking if you have skill assessment, you have 5 years of experience, but the designation I've chosen is ICT business analyst, for which I have 2 years experience. So after the skill assessment, will only 2 years experience get counted for my PR points? So Roger, there are 2 different points here. One is the employment assessment and the second is the qualification assessment. So I need to know your qualification first, because if your qualification is not related to your nominated occupation, your higher amount of experience will be deducted by ACS. So you need to meet the ACS guideline. And if you're using the overseas qualification, obviously the first 2 years experience can be considered as a non-skilled. So it is case-to-case basis. So if you can give more information, we can assist you further. Garima is asking if the COVID visa is going to be continued. So Garima, there has been a lot of discussions about this 408 visa coming to end. So what department discussed and advised earlier as well, that they will give enough time for the stakeholders to act accordingly if they're going to seize the 408, which I believe they will do it before end of this year. When I say end of this year, not the financial year, but the calendar year. So it could be happening in next 6 months time. Obviously, they will give enough time for the applicants to continue and finish up the lodgements, but they will set the deadline of the visa being seized eventually. What are the chances? Aditi is asking what are the chances of getting the state nominations for advertising and marketing specialist in Victoria or New South Wales. Aditi, very good chances for Victoria especially, and even NSW. Apparently marketing specialist is one of the most in-demand occupations. So it is emerging as well. So it's currently in most in-demand 20 occupations in Australia. So there's high chance of getting the state nominations because of a lot of changes in digital space. This is one of the occupation which is emerging very fastly. So I wouldn't be surprised eventually in the future, department will consider putting the marketing occupations in long-term list because it is a very crucial skills for the businesses. Absolutely. Ajay, your question is regarding marketing as well. So you have done Masters of Project Management with 5.5 years of experience in marketing. For other scope, it is very good occupation, as I just mentioned to Aditi as well. So if you have ongoing job in Melbourne, try to get a skill assessment done as a marketing specialist. And you should definitely try to put through the expression of interest for the state nominations, either 190 in Victoria or even 491. We should also try to look for other states options as well. Let's say in South Australia here, you can apply for 190 if you meet the experience requirements itself. So if you can get a job after you're studying in Melbourne, you can move to Adelaide, let's say, and apply for your visa 190 or 491 eventually. So it is possible. So G2 is asking if the subclass 189 active enough. Do offshore candidates getting invitations from 189 also regarding threshold 70 will put impact? Yeah, I think you have asked too many questions, G2, in one line, but then 189 is not restricted to just offshore or onshore. Obviously, they did the specific, I would say, targeted invitations late last year. A lot of applicants from offshore were invited, but then the invitation round, which just happened day before yesterday or yesterday itself, were primarily for the onshore applicants who are working in health, teaching, and social work occupations. In regards to your 70,000 cap or the requirements, the dismiss changes, it's primarily affecting 482s. There is no official confirmation, as far as I know personally, from department that it will change for 491 visa holders as well. So I wouldn't be commenting on that personally, but then I'll wait for the department to clarify if this changes in dismiss requirements from currently 53,900 to 70,000 from 1st of July to 491 visa holders or the applicants as well. Vishal is asking, is possible to get 190 from engineering technologist from Victoria? Look, Vishal, I believe Victoria is very specific in terms of how they're processing the priority sector occupations and the rest of the occupations. There are multiple factors you need to consider, which is obviously your points, your income, your occupation. So it's a good chance, but it does not guarantee you the outcome. So you should have a plan B as well. Now, when I say plan B, obviously your situation can be different in next financial year. You should just reassess where you're sitting in July, see what are your chances, how the Victoria is specifically targeting the different occupation groups, because every state will come up with their new requirements for the next financial year. So you need to understand and readjust your profile according to the new requirements for that 12 months. When I say the new requirements, they're not going to change a lot of entry requirements. I mean just the occupational changes. So every state will have a different economy requirements. So they change the occupation according to the industry specific requirements. So you need to just keep watching the individual state authorities' current requirements. So I've got a few other questions coming from Facebook as well. Sarvana is asking, 190 state nomination lodged on 15th of May, as they recently announced the quota has been exhausted. Do they still process the application this month or coming month? So apparently, if you are eligible, you'll be contacted by South Australian Immigration, and then they will just give you that option, either to wait for July, the new financial year will start, and they will nominate you in that financial year for your visa 190, or you can accept to apply for 491, or if you don't want to wait, you can apply for the refund. So they will be eventually contacting you to offer this, as long as you are eligible for visa 190. It will not happen automatically. Obviously, you need to tick all the boxes for the visa 190. They will do the assessment. Once they assess you to be eligible for 190, then yes, they will offer you these three options. So Kasim Ali is asking about the partner visa. If I'm going to apply for spouse visa 309 for my wife who is overseas, Do I need to submit the sponsorship application through my account as well? If yes, what would after that? So yeah, Kasim, it's obviously you need to apply for your sponsorship as well, along with the visa application, and it can be done through your account. It needs to be done at the same time. So you should be applying for the sponsorship and the visa application along with that. Vicky is asking an interesting question. What are the chances of onshore versus offshore student visas? So Vicky, obviously onshore student visas process are different because students have already arrived in Australia, they're already in Australia. The application will be at a different stage, which means some of them are applying for a new student visa to finish the rest of the course. Some of them are applying the new student visa to apply for the study first time, or some of them are applying the student visa from different visas. So obviously, every application will have different assessment criteria applied to them. But onshore are already easier because they're already in country. If they are coming from, let's say, visitor visa to a student visa or different visas, they might have already been assessed to be a genuine applicant in the previous visa application. So it might be easier for the department to assess the rest of the application. However, offshore is obviously a bit different because they will be assessed through a different team offshore in most of the cases, and they will be assessed against a lot of criteria, including economical situation back home, employment opportunities back home, individual profile of the student, what is the gap, multiple factors involved. So it is a different case-to-case basis. So there's a question about I lodged my 190 visa on 3rd of April. I'm nutritious. My question here is, am I eligible for priority processing? The priority list is not showing my occupation, but the relevant occupation mentioned in the list is dietitian. But my occupation comes under the health sector, so I'm coming to the health sector. Does that mean I will get the grant soon? Because of the health sector, it will take more time as well. So Mr. Khan, in regards to the priority sector occupation or priority list, initially it was targeted only for the employer-sponsored visas, not for the skilled visas. However, the department is considering most of the application according to that guideline. So they can consider individual applicants as priorities, but then keeping in mind some of the occupation, even in health, are not really a priority occupations because they are not a frontline occupations. So it can be treated case-to-case basis. So I cannot comment that they will process the application under the priority assessment, but it will be granted soon because department is trying to bring down the overall processing time and trying to reduce as much as possible the backlogs by automating or fast tracking a lot of temporary visas so they can allocate existing resource to the different visa subclass. So giving an example that most of these 408 and 485, the graduate visas, are now pretty much auto grants. So once the applicant is applying for the visa, as long as they meet all the requirements, it might be just auto granted. So department is working to try to reduce the number of backlogs. Fuzzle, developer programmer with 80 points, any chance of invitation? Fuzzle, nowadays, it's very important to be specific, unfortunately, because if you are talking about 189, then no, we don't have any information because there has been very long time since department has issued any invitations to ICT occupations last in 189 rounds. If we talk about 190 and 491, yes, it has been happening in most of the states. So it is state to state different. Amelia is asking if you have any chance of getting 190 as an enrolled nurse living in Adelaide, still need working outer regional. So Amelia, as far as I can personally suggest or predict is it will be pretty much same requirements. So for 190, you might have to move to regional South Australia because there are enough applicants already in this occupation group. So they may not consider bringing 190 for enrolled nurse in Adelaide. The Chirag is asking best university for Masters in Business Analytics or Business Information System in Melbourne. So Chirag is very broad range in terms of suggesting any education provider. However, in terms of business analytics, there are a lot of good providers, including Swinburne, Monash, Kaplan Business School, quite a few of them. So what you should be doing is basically go on a Cracker's website, search for Masters in Business Analytics or Business Information System. It will give you a list of providers which are providing this particular course in Melbourne. And then you should go and search in regards to their individual websites or the industry feedback. A lot of companies, including Deloitte and a lot of big consulting firms, they do work with this education providers to develop different level courses, especially in the data science and business analytics, because it is emerging occupations. So there is a high demand in the industry. So you should consider doing that kind of research. That will give you plenty of information who to choose and where you should be studying. So 836 visa in terms of career visa, I cannot comment on the processing time because it's subject to change every month as well. So every visa subclass processing time depends on number of visas they have on hand, and also the multiple factors, including the application documentations, where the applicant is offshore, onshore, what kind of assessment to be done, or any health or character concerns. So you need to consider a lot of factors in regards to individual applications. What department's website shows, it's an average time. So you should consider going on department website to understand what is the average time. But keep in mind, this is not a perfect time frame because obviously it is subject to change. So if you're asking for new rules in aged care, skill assessment need to be done after 1 year of experience or completing 3. So Vicky, if you can be more specific about what is the purpose of using this skill assessment, because aged care is in multiple sector in terms of the employer-sponsored visa. So there is a DAMA, and then there is an industry-specific labor agreement, which is aged care agreement. So if you talk about requirements, both have different requirements. If I talk about South Australia DAMA, aged care requirement is minimum Cert 3 and 1 year of post-study experience to get the DAR assessment, which is required for your further nomination and then the visa. Kirandeep, yes, as I think South Australia already cleared up that they have exhausted the 190 allocations for this financial year. So I doubt there will be any more invitations for the rest of the financial year. We are anyway end of May, so you'll be looking at 4 weeks more. So they might give you the invitation if you're eligible for 190 in early July. So you might have to wait for 4 to 6 weeks to get the invitation. So Raj is asking if you have any chance of getting invitation for civil draft person with 70 points. Yes. So look, in regards to the occupation and getting the state invitation, every state have their own criteria. So you need to understand where do you live and what's your current criteria for your state. So if I give you example for South Australia, so we are more focused on employment and overall profile rather than points. As long as you have 65 points, you meet the other requirements, which is working in South Australia for the nominated occupation or closely related occupation, then your application can be considered. Pretty much same 65 points requirement can apply for, I think, NT as well, Tasmania as well, even regional Queensland as well. So even regional Victoria as well. So every state have different point requirement. So as long as you meet the points and the employment requirements, you should be getting the invitation. So Nikhil, if you have lodged it on 8th, you should be getting in normally 4 weeks time. So you should be getting it soon. Once you have the invitation, obviously you'll be given 60 days from the date of invitation to launch the visa. So Chirag, business analyst, when you say PR coming lately, these there are multiple streams you can apply for the PR in Australia, including employer-sponsored visas, skill migration, partner visas, protection visas, a lot of things, right? So If you talk about ICT business analyst, it can fall under employer sponsored or skill migration. If you talk about skill migration through points, you have 189, 190, and 491. There has not been invited for 189 for business analysts recently, but then for 190 and 491, the minimum points are 65. So if you talk about state-sponsored programs, 190 and 491, then you need minimum 65 points. Renu is asking if I can cancel the OEHC because you already got the interim Medicare. Yes, you can, as long as you have the medical requirements met. You can cancel your overseas health cover and you can just be on an interim card. Once you get a permanent visa, you'll be given a full Medicare by Medicare itself, so you should be covered. Salman is asking if there any chances to get 491 New South Wales accounting 90 points, finance manager 85 points, auditing 85 points. Look, Salman, as I mentioned earlier again, that let's say in New South Wales there are different RCBs. So every RCB has different specific requirements for different occupations. So you need to be more specific about where do you work. Are you working in your nominated occupation or not? To make sure that you do get the 491 considered from New South Wales. Saurav is asking if you have a good chance of getting computer network and system engineer 75 points, including state WA 491. It is there. They invited a lot of applicants in different occupations earlier this month, but then you have to be like, there's no specific time frame when you can expect. They still have some allocations left, so they can do another round of invitations shortly as well. .491 mechanical engineering 80 of our and living in wage or not working in the field. Zaifa, yes, sometimes they might invite. Look, Victoria has been very I wouldn't say funny, but very unpredictable, with a lot of invitations invited, given to the applicants with zero income, not working in the field, still got invited. So yes, it can be invited case to case basis, depending on where do you live, what kind of work you do and stuff. Or Shada is asking if you can move to a different state after getting the state nomination. So look, you've been given the state nomination because you are required to fill the skill gap in that particular state. So when you apply for your state nomination, obviously state will expect you to stay in the nominated state for next 2 years or 3 years. So if you want to move around, as far as the visa is concerned, it does not stop you to move around, but you should be having no objection or any like a consent letter from individual state. As far as I know, I think most of the states do not issue any such letters, so you need to have an independent decision for yourself. But as far as our recommendation is concerned, you should be meeting all the requirements and obligations on your visa. Norman Ali is asking if do you think cutoff points will be higher for the next financial year for 189? Can we expect one first round next financial year in July? So Norman, cutoff points will all depend on how the strategy department will use. Either they differentiate the onshore and offshore applicants, or they focus only the health occupations. So how do they work on? Because before COVID, when they were inviting monthly or quarterly, obviously they were inviting all the occupations, a lot of occupations which are non-critical to health or teaching, they got invited as well. And that's why the cutoff point was always being higher. Now, the current strategy, what they're doing is obviously the cutoff is only 65. So a lot of occupations which are invited at only just 65, which is the minimum. So in the last invitation round, if you check the teachers, the RNs, medical laboratory scientists, a lot of other medical occupations, they've all been invited at 65 points. So it is just depending on if the department will continue the current trend, or they will go back to the previous arrangements before COVID, which I doubt they will. So it might remain low, but only for the specific occupations. All right, so Tina is asking, as far as I know, people can apply for WA from interstate for 190,491. Is it ongoing for the new financial year? Also, it's processed for the same as Victoria. Should we submit an EOI and ROI both? So Tina, for WA, you can apply for the expression of interest, and then you have to wait for the migration WA to invite you to apply for the state nomination. Whereas Victoria works on ROI basis, so you have to lodge an expression of interest plus a registration of interest. Victoria is already closed for this financial year for the new ROIs because they already have enough pipeline to finish up the rest of the allocations. As far as the next financial year's arrangements are concerned, it's very difficult to judge or say, because obviously department or the assessment, the migration bodies will look at the current settings. If that's working, they will continue. If that's not working, they will make the changes in that, and then they will restart the process in the new financial year. So we'll get to know by ideally first week or second week of July for individual states. Some states might take a bit longer, but it's case to case here. Being more specific on 190 Victoria, New South Wales with 80-point salary, 90K per annum with spouse having an SES positive outcome. So Fazil, yes, Victoria can consider the application, but having said that, it's not only the income specific. We did have received a lot of invitations for the applicants who are not even working in the occupations. So let's say ENs, teachers, social worker, welfare workers, a lot of them don't have jobs in the nominated occupation in Victoria, still got invited with zero income. So it is possible in case-to-case basis. Yeah. So Noman, in regards to your question about PhD graduates going back to the Victoria State nomination stream, I think the reason these streams were there because they were having less number of allocations for the state nomination programs. So they were being specific in current situation. I think if you are a PhD graduate, you should be able to get the state nomination in Victoria anyway. So unless you are talking about certain graduate stream which were focused on master students. But as far as the PhD graduates are concerned, most of the states will try to retain the PhD graduates in their states itself. So getting a state nomination for PhD graduates might be easier in general case scenario anyway. So Nihar is asking if you can apply for a citizenship. You got 189. So Nihar, the basic requirement for citizenship is you need to have stayed in Australia for 4 years. And that includes 1 year on a permanent visa, which is 189 in your case. And out of this 4 years, you should not be staying out of the country for maximum 3 months each year. So you need to meet the residential requirement to apply for your citizenship. Diva, if you're working in the childcare in Queensland, it depends on where you are in Queensland, but there is a DAMA agreement for Cairns. Have a look if your occupations is there. If you're working in around Cairns area, and if you're meeting the employer sponsored requirement, then yeah, you can apply for your PR through that. Sam is asking, applied for 189 last December, but haven't got the grants yet. How long more to wait? So look, in regards to the processing time, it is available on department website. But again, the reason the 189 in the grant, the time frame was very small, as in months or days, simply because there were not many invitations in last 2 years, right? So they restarted the program mid last year. So whatever the new application they were getting, they were processing straight away. So that's why the overall processing time was much lower compared to 190 and 491, which were not stopped earlier. Now, because of the ongoing invitations, obviously 189 invitation, the 189 waiting period will set to increase. So if you have met all the requirements, you should be expecting visa grant soon. But at the moment, it's taking around 3 months in most of the case scenario. And if your occupation is in the priority sector level, which is health and all, then you should be getting more priority as well. So just cross-check your documentations if you meet all the requirements, including the character and the health. Abdullah is asking if you can provide the stat tag instead of reference letter for skill assessment because company is not giving the reference letter. Abdullah, it is discretion based depending on what kind of documents you have provided to EA, Genus Australia. So some countries, they do accept the stat tag, but you need to provide the other evidences, including the payment evidence, position description, taxation documents as well, maybe collect declaration as well. So you might have to attach all the supporting documents as well to make sure that application is considered and will be processed in your favor. Someone's asking, Kim is asking if you can stop OHSC after lodging the visa application, as sometimes it takes long. If you are offshore, yes, you should be able to adjust the OHSC date after lodging the visa. But if you are onshore, then you can't, because you need to be having a valid health insurance if you are in Australia. So you need to understand where you are, and then yes, you can change around. So Vicky is asking if getting an invitation in Brisbane Regional Sunshine Coast is easier for aged care or disability care, currently holding 3. Vicky, I don't think so. This occupation is in the state nomination list. This is very low skilled occupation, aged care or disability care. It's currently in a skill level 4 or skill level 5. So if you want to get a permanent residency in this occupation, it cannot be through a state sponsorship. It has to be through an employer-sponsored visas, either through TAMA or the industry-specific labor agreement. I'm a fresh mechanical engineer with 70 plus 15 points for 491. Which state should I apply for next financial year? South Australia, WA, New South Wales. So you should consider applying for maybe New South Wales or WA, because South Australia will not consider your application without experience. Plus, if you are in Australia, then you need to be in South Australia if you want to apply for your state nomination here. So understanding your overall situation, you can consider either WA or New South Wales. Sorry guys, my messages is just coming through very randomly, so I'll try my best. I'm not trying to skip any questions. I'm just trying to make sure we are covering up everything. So Lakshmi is asking if there is any changes from visa fees from July. Yes, Lakshmi, there is an increase as far as I know. It is matching up with the consumer price index, CPI index, which is 6%. So there will be a fees changes from 1st of July for the next financial year. So new application launched after that will be subject to the new fee structure. This question, if there is any another round of 189 in this financial year. Apparently there is no publicly available information for anyone to check if there is going to be any 189 invitations. Department did very unexpected round this week because of its almost end of financial year. But people or the applicant shouldn't be very much hopeful that there will be another round for this financial year. Obviously, there will be one in July or August, but that again depends on how the strategy works as far as the state nomination and the skilled 189 visa is concerned. Because I can tell you, because of this massive 189 invitation round which happened last year, it did affected a lot of states, their allocations, and also the planning levels for 190 and 491, because obviously being an applicant, you would consider to have 189 first rather than 190 or 491. So that impacted the state's planning for certain occupations. So obviously, because of that feedback, the department may consider working around the occupation specific rounds rather than just location or just being in general. Is high performance graduate criteria still on in SA? Yes, there is a still pathway which is called high performance graduate for South Australian graduate. And Oman, as far as I know, there is no round happened today. So this is if you're talking about 189 itself. I've lodged 190 and my medical got expired. Should I call the immigration for HAP ID? So Renu, you should wait for the department to contact you if they require the new medical checkup for you, and they will issue the new HAP ID for you. So if you have lodged 476 visa and you got invitation for 491, if you are currently offshore, then yes, you should withdraw your 476 and just wait for the 491 visa itself. And once you get through, obviously you can travel to Australia. Student dependent visa processes, again, it's subject to where the applicant is. So some case scenario, it's taking very long. Some applicants from certain countries, including, let's say, African subcontinent or Latin Americans, it is taking very short period of time because of overall situation in terms of number of applications in that particular high commission they have, or the application in general. So it is subject to the location of the applicant and the nationality. Any chance of 491 computer network and system engineering 75 points, as well as residing in WA? I think I already answered it, but if you are a WA graduate, they can consider your application, yes. Right, so I think we have got some questions coming up from YouTube as well. I'll just go through them quickly. Yeah, I did cover up most of them. Now, this question, animal lover is asking about course change. So can you be more specific about your question? Because I'm not getting your question. You're just mentioning very short lines, which is not really helpful. So there's an interesting question about who got invited on Lordship visa, will they eligible for Medicare and childcare subsidy? Keshav, as far as I know, Medicare, yes. In regards to childcare, I think you'll have to check with the Services Australia, which is Centrelink. As most likely, you won't be eligible for the childcare subsidy straight away, but I could be wrong. So you might be better off checking with the Centrelink directly on their website or through the helplines. Just to update all of you as well that this week there was obviously not this week but in general this month that aged care industry specific labor agreement. It was announced, a lot of questions around that. We did sessions as well. So you need to have, it's not a direct visa application, you need to have an employer who can sponsor you for this. So the aged care, which are registered aged care, they need to be sponsoring you for the permanent visa, either 186 or 482. Obviously you need to meet the employer also need to meet the other requirements. So it is not a direct visa, it's not available to everyone, it is employer sponsored, so it's employer who's going to be nominating you. So you need to meet the requirements. So make sure you understand the visa type. Without only qualification will not get you the visa, basically, because we've been getting a lot of questions from the students that they want to do certificate 3 in aged care just because there is new visa pathway for them. But it's good to be working in aged care. It's rewarding, but then it is not just like you finish your qualification and you apply for your visa. For high performance graduate, it is minimum 6 GPA, or you can be a PhD graduate. So it depends what level of qualification you have done, bachelor or master's, but it's minimum 6 GPA. Piyush, you're asking for cutoff for software engineer 19491. It depends on which state you're talking about, but generally 65 plus. If you talk about certain states, including South Australia, Tasmania, Northern Territory, regional Victoria as well, if you have a job in your field. So it is subject to state. Yeah, I think we have covered up most of the questions. If you still have any more questions, you can just drop us a message here and we should be able to help you out with these questions.